I am third generation on my family's dairy farm. So here on the farm, I work with my mother, brother, sister, cousin, her husband, my uncle, my dad. But my role is feeding cows each morning and generally overseeing the nutrition for all of our cows. We actually have 300 cows and we're milking those cows with robotic milkers. So we actually have 5 robots that the cows choose to go to voluntarily. And in our barn, we have been able to adopt and include all the new technology that's available. So we have a feed pushing robot. We have misting fans that are on variable speeds so that when it's hotter, they blow faster and harder. We have water beds. We have thermostat controlled curtains. So we identified all these things that are really important to cow health, and we have been able to incorporate tools to meet those needs for our cows. Up until we moved into the barn, it took about 200 acres of grassland to supply our cows with the nutrients they needed. Once we moved into our robotic milking barn, each cow has her own schedule. Some cows are getting milked at 6 a.m. or noon. And so in order to be able to provide each of those cows with easy access to that robot based on her individual schedule, we decided that having our cows kept in the barn was going to be the best option. We also are able to provide them with shade and lots of good ventilation, so they are much more content when it's the middle of summer to be in the barn. The system is very expensive, but looking ahead and looking at the fact that my generation, we don't want to spend 12 hours a day stuck in a milking parlor. We want to be a lot more involved in the individualized cow care, and my brother would much rather be out in the fields doing cropping. So we decided that this is a really important aspect to our succession plan. In order to keep my generation, the next generation, engaged and want to be on this farm, robotic technology was going to have to be considered. We're not at the point where we've seen a return on the investment. However, when it comes to the well-being and health of our animals, I think that's where we're seeing the biggest return on investment. Each of our cows are outfitted with a collar. It's called a rumination collar. It's actually tracking the number of times she chews in a day, and then it's monitoring her activity, like a Fitbit. All of that information is being recorded and coming onto our central computer, and so each cow has her own baseline. So when there's any deviation from that baseline, we are then alerted. So if suddenly her chewing habits start to really go down, that could be indicative that she's not feeling well. And so it alerts us, and so we can be way better at helping her get better before we have to resort to more expensive medications. That rumination collar has a chip in it so that when she visits the robot, it identifies exactly who she is, and it also drives her individualized nutrition plan. So it says, oh, number 436 is here. She's allowed to have 12 pounds of grain, but she's already been here twice today, so that means that she only gets 3 pounds at this visit. So it creates this whole protocol and system so that we're meeting her individual needs like we never have before. All of the milk is passed through a conductivity test so we can make sure that it's meeting certain qualities that we want that milk to meet. If it doesn't, it goes down the drain. It's all a closed system. We never personally come into contact with that milk. So that milk literally leaves the cow, goes through the process of being filtered and getting cooled and going into that milk tank without ever coming into human contact, so that it can truly be a safe, clean, healthy product. Every load of milk that leaves this farm and every dairy farm in this country has no antibiotic residuals in it. It is tested at the farm and it is tested again before it goes to the processor. And that's something we take so seriously, because if they were to find any residuals in that milk, it would dump the whole load. And so if our milk has already intermingled with other farms' milk, that's on our dime. We get billed for the expense of that entire truckload. But we have protocols in place so that it will never pass through to our tank of milk that's going to get picked up for selling. It's not an industry you're in because you're making a lot of money, and it never will be, and it's probably not the right business to be in if that's what you wanted. But I'm here because I'm tilling and harvesting off of the same land that my grandpa was growing crops on 70 years ago, and I think that's the coolest thing. And if we can get to a point where we actually celebrate 100 years of farming here, that would be awesome.